These are some YouTube world records that will never be broken, until today. The most subscribers gained in a second apparently is 20,000 by a guy named K's TV. He now has 12 million subscribers. How do you even do that? How do you just convince 20,000 people to subscribe to you in a second? That doesn't make sense. The most views ever gained in one day was on an ad for a mobile game that I'm not gonna say because I'm a businessman. I'm not doing any free promo. But it got 1.2 billion views in one day, which is absolutely disgusting. The most subscribers lost in one day was James Charles, who lost 1.25 million in one day. You know what we should do? Let's make this video the most subscribers gained from one short. So do this. Double click this and press this button. Here are some things you should never ask Siri or Alexa. Now this is about to get weird, so prepare yourself. Don't ask Alexa if she works for the CIA, because she will light up like she's about to answer and then shut off and pretend like nothing happened. Little bit suspect if you ask me. Don't ask either of them to laugh, because they'll make a very weird noise. Let me actually try that right now. You know what? Never mind. Lastly, don't ask them or Google how old I am, because they'll give you a new answer every single time. I'm 20 something years old, okay? But for some reason, when you Google my age, it's a new number every time. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I could explain why, but it just happens. These are the world's most painful human experiences. The absolute worst bone to break in your body is the femur, which is right next to the pelvis. I believe it kinda makes sense, because the femur is what connects your upper body and your lower body. So if you were to break the right middle of your body, you're kinda fucked. The most painful place to get a tattoo, in reasonable places, like not the eye or the other places, but the most painful realistic place to get a tattoo is this part of your neck and your armpit, as they have the strongest pain receptors. Lastly, one of the most common painful surgeries that people go through are appendicitis. I've had an appendicitis and that sucked. So if you've had one, let me know.
These are actors that almost died while acting. Acting is a serious job. People do some crazy things for your entertainment. Sometimes even risking death, and other times actually dying. In this one movie called The Passion of Christ, this actor that you are looking at, his name is Jim. He played Jesus Christ in this movie. And on the last day of filming, before wrapping the entire movie up, Jim was giving an emotional speech in Italy, standing on top of a hill. They waited for the weather to get very cloudy, rainy, and dark so they could perfectly depict the emotion that they're trying to express. So they waited, and it started raining. So in the tiny time frame that they had to film the scene, Jim got struck by lightning. And not just him. The assistant director also got struck by lightning and he fell down the hill because he was right next to him. And somebody else. Now he almost died from that, but he also almost died a bunch of other times while filming this movie. He dislocated his shoulder while carrying a 150-pound wooden cross on his back. He got hypothermia from being half naked in the freezing rain. He got pneumonia. He got whipped with a real whip for real, and it just keeps going. He ended up surviving. He didn't die, but that's just a bit crazy, isn't it?
These are some phone numbers you should never call. Once again, this is for educational purposes only. So if you call any of these phone numbers, you're gonna have to deal with whatever happens next. This phone number that you see on the screen, someone who I know in real life, who watches the videos, shout out to her, texted me this phone number and said that it works. Basically, if you were to call it, someone will pick up and start to ask you weird questions that they're gonna be expecting an answer for. And if you don't answer, then they're gonna get very upset with you. Allegedly. This next phone number, it only works in the United States. So if you're curious about it and you don't live in the US, sorry, but it's only for the people in the US. Basically, when you call it, someone will count to 7, 1 to 7. And then after the countdown, they'll immediately say your name and location and what you are doing in this current moment. Apparently. This next number, if you call it, someone's gonna pick up very angrily and just start to yell at you. So don't call my boy, just leave him alone. These are the failing grades in different countries. For some schools on Earth, if you manage to fail school, you actually need to be impressively stupid. And I'll explain why. For starters, in the United States and Canada, if you get anything below a 50%, you fail. That's the standard. Some schools are 60%, but for the most part, it's 50. In Italy, China, and Japan, if you get anything below a 60%, you automatically fail. So it is slightly harder. Now, if you live in any of the countries that I'm about to say and you're failing school, you need to give yourself a good long look in the mirror and ask yourself, why am I stupid? Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, or South Africa. Their failing grades are 30 to 35%. They have the lowest passing grade on Earth. Here are some easy world records you could break. Well, probably. All of these world records that I picked out, in my opinion, are all very easy, especially the last one. And I thoroughly believe you could probably beat these world records if you tried. First, the fastest time to drink a Capri Sun in its juice box with the straw, juice box? Could you even call it a juice box? Is 10.41 seconds. That sounds fairly reasonable, and if you want, you could also attempt it with Kool-Aid or anything that also has the same juice box as this. Be careful with this next one, but the most CDs ever stacked on a singular finger is 50. And the fastest time to peel and eat an orange is 17.15 seconds. Finally, there is not a single world record out there for the most subscribers ever gained from a singular YouTube short. So you know what we should do? Double tap your screen and just press this button. This is how long school days are in other countries. I live in Canada. Over here, from what I remember, school days were 8:30 to 3:30, so 7 hours. Alright, now, Brazil. They go to school from 7:15 to 1 p.m. 1 p.m. I honestly can't even fathom that. France, on the other hand, their school days are 8 hours long, and South Korea's school hours are 8.5 hours long. 5 days a week, 8.5 hours long. That's a full-time job right there for the students, not even just the teachers. In Taiwan, the school days are 10 hours every single day. Bro, you barely even have enough time for your kids if your kids are at school for 10 hours a day every day.
This is the luckiest unlucky man to ever exist. I don't know if this is lucky or unlucky. I'll let you be the judge. This is Frane Salak. He was a Croatian music teacher who got famous for the wrong reasons. In 1962, he was riding a train that ended up derailing off track and falling into a river, where everybody died but him. He managed to escape with just a broken arm, but that's just the beginning of it. 1 year later, he got into a plane crash because the aircraft door exploded open and he got thrown out. But he somehow managed to survive from falling into a haystack, like it's Minecraft or something. 19 of the passengers on that plane died, besides him. 3 years later, he got into a bus accident from the bus skidding off the road. 4 people drowned, yet he survived. 4 years later, his car exploded. 3 years after that, another car that he bought also exploded. Bro, give this guy a break. 22 years later, he was hit by a bus and he survived. 1 year later after that, he was driving a car in the mountains and a truck was coming his direction, but on the wrong lane. So he skidded his car out the way and then crashed into a railing where he flew out of the car and his car fell off the mountain and exploded. So he was just sitting there watching his car roll down the mountain, sitting there like this, like no way I just survived another one of these. So then somebody told him, yo, you gotta buy a lottery ticket because this is crazy. So in 2003, he bought his first ever lottery ticket in his life and he won $900,000. Bro, this guy might just be the chosen one.
These are the darkest things found on Google Maps. Google Maps has practically mapped the entire Earth. It's actually insanely impressive and scary at the same time. A few years ago, a bus driver that goes by the name Jerry was checking Google Maps to double check his routes that he had to take for his bus route. So this guy Jerry noticed that his ex-girlfriend's house is along the way. So he zoomed into her house. God knows why. And then he found this white vehicle right next to the lake, next to her house. So he found an excuse to call her. He called her, said, do you know anything about this? She said no, but we could check it out together. So him and his ex-girlfriend checked out this vehicle in the water, and turns out that it wasn't a mistake from Google Maps. There was an actual vehicle in the water. So they called the police. The police took the car out, and they found that inside the car there was a dead man with the skeleton inside still attached to the seatbelt. And that guy was William Mould, who disappeared in 1997 but got discovered 20 years later. Yeah, Google Maps is crazy. These are the dumbest things scientists have ever done. So not too long ago, scientists discovered the oldest living creature on the entire planet, which was a clam. And scientists, they're supposed to be smart, right? But whoever was responsible for this case was a dumbass. In order to be able to tell how old the clam actually was, they had to kill it for whatever reason. And then they killed it and then got the age of the clam wrong. So not only did they kill a clam for no reason, they also got their information wrong. The United States in 1994 tried to create a non-lethal chemical weapon as a way to create imbalance within wars. So they genuinely tried to create a gay bomb. A bomb that drops on people and makes everybody gay from chemicals that get released. I don't know how, but it was researched for years. And they put nearly $10 million into this project. This is where the tax money is going. At what age would you let your kids do these things? Tattoos or piercings? I don't really care for piercings, because wherever you get the piercing, it eventually grows back. So I don't really give a fuck. Tattoos? Over the age of 18, but it also depends on what they get. Like, if my kid were to approve it with me, I guess, I'm okay with it. As long as it's not some dumb shit, like a rose, or a butterfly, or or Roman numerals of his mom's birthday, you know? As long as it's not some dumb shit, I don't give a fuck.
Especial.
Makeup? I don't really know. That's not up to me. That'd be up to my wife. So whatever she decides. Skip school. Fuck school. Every once in a while, if my kid wants to, I'll be okay with it. I had a lot of sick days as a kid, so I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. As long as my kid's not like skipping every single day, like some of the people that I know, I don't. Follow for part 2.
Here are some more genius kids who completely beat the system. This one kid in grade 7, who we will name Monkey D. Eric, was just hanging out casually with his family, minding his own business, when his grandma decided to give him $1,000. For practically no reason. Just grandma giving some cookies and some bread to her great-grandchildren, shout out to her. And he cherished this money. He invested some of the money and put the rest of the money in a hidden area where he will never touch, because it just meant so much to him. Fast forward to grade 10 now, 3 years later, his parents were forcing him to start preparing for college because college is right around the corner. But this kid Eric was like, bruv, I don't want to go to college. But his parents weren't budging. They're like, no, you're going to go to college. You don't have a choice. So Eric decided, I'm going to sit my parents down and have a conversation with them. So he gave them a ridiculous proposal. He's like, look, if I make $1 million by the time I turn 18, I don't have to go to college. So his parents looked at each other like this. They laughed and they're like, okay, cool, deal. So now, with that $1,000 that the grandma gave him that he invested, turns out he actually put a big portion of it into Bitcoin in 2011 when he was 12. So when he turned 18 years old, that money that he put into the Bitcoin actually ended up being worth well over $1 million. So he made $1 million by the time he turned 18 years old, and he didn't need to go to college. God did not want this brother to go to college.
These are the craziest names given to kids. My name is Hussein. I very much like the name that my parents gave me. But some parents out there, I don't know what they were smoking when they decided to become a parent, but they were smoking something and I don't want to know what. Let's take Elon Musk for example. This is his child's name. I don't even know how to approach pronouncing that. I'm sure this name is just a complicated spelling for the most normal name out there. Like this probably stands for Russell or something. Another crazy name given to a poor kid goes to this kid in Sweden, whose name is this, with the numbers included. This looks like his parents just bashed their hands on the keyboard and decided to name their kid whatever was spelt out. It's a long story for why this is his name, but it's very real. Next, Jay-Z and Beyonce. Their child's name is Blue Ivy. That sounds like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. These are the dumbest crimes committed by kids. In 1995, there was a kid named Klaus Schmidt who was 25 years old, but I'm still gonna call him a kid as a result of what Schmidt did. He decided to rob a bank because he wanted money. So he went through the whole process, all the typical lines that bank robbers say. Everybody get down on the ground, give me all your money. You know the drill. So when he went to the bank tellers asked him, do you need a bag? Because he wasn't holding a bag. So he said, yes, this is a real gun. So the bank tellers started to look at each other like, wait a second. So they started to mess around a little bit, asking funny questions, but he wasn't responding. Now the reason why he wasn't responding wasn't because he wanted to carry a persona of being mysterious and dangerous. It's because he was deaf. And the bank tellers realized that this idiot is deaf. So they called the police, they rang the sirens, and his dumbass couldn't hear it. So they gave him the money. By the time he walked out the door, he was immediately arrested and he was sentenced to life in prison. These are times when people risk their lives for memes. This guy right here, his name is Ben. Remember his face. He decided one day he wants to travel, hopped on a plane and decided to fly to Cairo, the capital of Egypt. When the plane that he was on got hijacked by this guy, Safe. Safe was unfortunately not safe because he had a bomb strapped to his chest. So he hijacked the plane and told the pilot land in Cyprus instead of Egypt. So the pilot, obviously fearing for his life, was like, you know what, you got it. When they landed in Cyprus, Safe let 95% of the people go safely, and he kept 7 passengers on the plane, Ben being one of them. So when they took off again, everyone on the plane was terrified but Ben. Ben was like, you know what would be really funny? If I just went and took a selfie with this guy. So he went up to the terrorist and politely asked him, yo, can I get a selfie? And Safe was like, you know what, sure, why not? Here's the picture. So the plane landed safely and this guy Safe got arrested and Ben was able to walk away with this legendary picture. Shout out to Benjamin, G of the day. These are some YouTubers who did some horrible things. SSS Sniper Wolf. this individual. She is a YouTuber that has over 35 million subscribers, and she has quite the backstory, or quite the history. She has done 3 things that have brutally pissed off the internet. First, 2013, she got arrested for an alleged armed robbery, but somehow, some way, I don't know how, they managed to reduce the charges immensely, and she only had to spend 3 days in jail rather than it having to be much more. I don't know how. 3 years later, in 2016, she got arrested again. Her and her significant other at the time were beefing, fighting each other, screaming at each other, and the neighbors heard how loud the screaming was, so they decided to call the police, and she got arrested for disorderly conduct. And the last thing, which is very recently, but 10 months ago, she got called out by a YouTuber named Jax Films for being unethical, and to prove his point about being unethical, she leaked his address to 5 million of her followers. Shout out to Big Bertha.
Today, I'm gonna be ranking ways how YouTubers beg for subscribers. I got this idea from Royal Pear, so shout out to him. YouTubers beg their viewers to subscribe in some pretty terrible ways. Like for example, if you made it this far, make sure you smash that subscriber button. This one's actually not that bad. It's like, oh, if you're enjoying my videos, why not subscribe? I'll put this one at number 3. Next, we have the if you don't subscribe, then you don't love your family. This one is by far the worst, and YouTube hates it. I hate it. I'll put this one at number 5. And then we have the did you know that only 5% of my viewers are actually subscribed? Subscribe to make it 5.5%. I think this one's okay, actually. Let me check how much my percentage is out of curiosity. Oh, wow. 6.8% of my viewers are subscribed. That's actually pretty crazy, but it's fine. Trust me, it's all good. I'll put this one at number 2. And then we have when YouTubers ask their viewers to subscribe in the intro before the video even starts. This one is so annoying, I'll be honest. I'll put this one at number 4. And then when they don't ask their audience to subscribe and they leave the option to subscribe. Number 1, subscribe only if you want to.
This is what people thought 2024 would be like 100 years ago. 100 years ago, they had predicted that us human beings would have discovered a way for cars to drive by themselves, which, for once, the prediction was correct. Next, they thought that human beings would discover a way, or discover the power, to destroy the entire planet on some anime shit. But once again, they're not wrong. Across the entire globe, there are 12,000 nukes. And to put it into perspective, it would only take 400 nukes to destroy the Earth, and there are 12,000. I don't know why countries think they need these, but they were correct. They thought that the population of Earth would be 25 billion by 2024. At the time, their population was 2 billion. So they thought that we would spawn another 23 billion humans. Interesting to say the least. Here are some of the stupidest phobias that people have. I love humans. They could be both endlessly so ridiculously stupid and smart at the same time. For example, this hippopotamonstrositiquitidlophobia. This is a real word, by the way. And funny enough, it is the fear of long words. So people with this phobia look at long words and start breaking down in a panic. Whoever is responsible for making the phobia name deserves a reward, because this is hilarious. Anatidaephobia. This one made me laugh so hard. This is the fear that a duck or a goose is secretly watching you at all times. Somebody watching this video right now is probably sitting next to a duck watching me on their TV or tablet or phone. So if you're that person, remix this video. Omphalophobia. This is the fear of belly buttons. People who have this fear look at belly buttons, start holding their head and start screaming in fear. Shout out to all the belly buttons out there. Here are some YouTubers with the weirdest real names. This honestly caught me pretty off guard. My real name is Hussein, so I have no right to talk about unconventional names in the YouTube space. But some of these YouTubers have names that I would have never expected, and I doubt you would have expected this either. So let's take iShowSpeed for example. He hid his name for years, but his real name is Darren Watkins. You know what? That's a pretty normal name now that I think about it. Next, we have KSI. His name is so long that if you say it in a single breath, your furniture might just start levitating. I'm gonna test this theory. His real name is Olajide Olayinke Williams Olatunji.
I beg your pardon?
Let's see my couch.
I'm joking! Stop!
I knew it. Next, we have PewDiePie. He has the name that a Viking admiral would have. His real name is Felix Arvid Ulf Schellberg. What in the world is this?
These are things that your teachers are not allowed to do. I'm not telling you this so you can go ahead and rebel against your teachers. That's not my intention here. I'm just informing you and letting you know that there's some things that you may think your teachers are allowed to do, but in reality, they're not. So for example, teachers can confiscate your phone temporarily, but they are not allowed to go through your phone. because that violates a very big privacy law. So if your teachers are ever snooping through your phone, that's a problem. Teachers cannot keep you past school hours without parents' permission. So if you get detention for, I don't know, chewing bubble gum in class, I don't know. I don't know what you get in trouble for these days. And the school doesn't let you go home past the bell, that I'm pretty sure is illegal without parent permission. They could lose their job over that, or potentially end up in prison if it's really that bad. I don't know, I'm gonna have to look into the prison stuff, but they're not allowed to do that. This one's a controversial one, but in the US, they cannot force you to stand for the national anthem or the pledge. You can say no, and if they force you to stand, you don't need to stand. The teachers, they may be a little bit persistent on making you stand, but you don't have to. Do what you want with that information, I'm just letting you know.
These are the most common fantasies at each stage of life. So at 4 to 8 years old, the earlier stages of your existence, talking to animals, your favorite cartoon character being real, and traveling to space are all common fantasies that young individuals seem to have. From ages 9 to 13 years old, becoming famous, having a boyfriend/girlfriend, and becoming an athlete, a singer, or a YouTuber are all common fantasies amongst that age. I am very guilty of this. I used to have a YouTube channel back in the day, which do not try to find, and I used to post videos and hope that overnight they would get 10 million views, which never happened. Nowadays that does, but those days, no. God is good. At ages 16 to 19 years old, making a lot of money, becoming independent, and traveling the world are all common fantasies. Don't lose any of your fantasies that may lead to a better life. They will happen if your intention is real. These are the fastest healing brutal injuries, so if you ever get injured in these ways, don't worry. Bang! If you ever have a pimple on your face and you accidentally pop it, which you shouldn't intentionally ever pop your pimples because this happens. Pretty much it scars you. But the actual cut heals in 10 minutes. I never knew that, but it's true. A splinter only takes 2 hours to heal, and then you're good. This one's not very quick, but a bicep tear takes 11 months to heal. Here's a fun fact. In March this year, I actually tore my forearm. So don't ego lift, especially on the biceps. You will f*** yourself over. These are the scariest things at each stage of life. Starting young, early ages. At ages 4 to 12, scary monsters, toys moving, fear of abandonment from parents, and going to school are all common fears amongst everybody, most people, from ages 4 to 12. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared of that shit too when I was a kid. At ages 13 to 15, sleep paralysis is a very big one. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. I'm not gonna tell you. When I found out about what sleep paralysis is, I had sleep paralysis that night. At the age of 20 to 22, the most common fear is being stuck in a job that you hate for the rest of your life. This is what people thought 2024 would be like 100 years ago. They thought that schools and classrooms would have changed their layout to be something more efficient and better for the students. But no. This is what classrooms look like 100 years ago, and this is what they look like now. Matter of fact, this is what classrooms look like 150 years ago. Nothing's changed. 100 years ago, they thought that warfare weapons would no longer be bullet-oriented, but instead would be laser-oriented. They thought that in wars, we'd be using ray guns and thunder guns and shit. But no, we're still using the same shit. They thought by now a new color would be discovered, as in colors outside of the colors that we see already. I'm sure an undiscovered color probably exists somewhere in the universe, but on Earth, no. How many bites would it take to eat these foods? First we have a banana. I just ate a banana, fun fact. How many bites did it take me? I like to break it in pieces. Like I'll break it in half and then eat it. I say 4 bites. 4 bites. Next we have Coca-Cola gummies. Ooh, I don't eat candy. However, I do eat my Coca-Cola gummies. What I do like to do is I like to eat the bottom part first. So the Coke part first. Then I eat the top part. I believe that's the correct way to do it. Next we have fries. Fries is usually 1 bite. It depends on the type of fries. If it's just the normal fries, 1 bite. If it's like those waffle fries, 1 to 2. Then we have Ash, this dumbass. I have tried to eat him on numerous occasions, truly. I think a safe answer would be under 10.
Do you have a rare body? Let's find out some more, boys and girls. Everybody, feel your chin right now. If your chin looks like this, then you have something called a cleft chin, also known as a butt chin. Globally, around 5% of people have a butt chin. I have a butt chin, but unfortunately, this beard that I decided to grow in the last hxsain update is covering it. If you go back and watch my old videos, you'll see it. It's very apparent. Next, everybody has a hairline, besides bald people, but for the most part, everybody has a hairline. But not many people have a hairline like this. This is called a widow's peak. It is the V-shaped point in the hairline. Less than 30% of people have this. You probably do, statistically at least. Next, around 4% of people have something called synesthesia. And if you don't know what that is, it is the ability to see sound and taste color. Now, I know that sounds confusing, so take a look at this picture. What do you hear when you look at this picture? This is an easy example, but it's much stronger for some people on Earth. Maybe even you.
Would you let these people babysit your kids? Andrew Tate. What the f? That's a good one. I would let him babysit my son, but my daughter, absolutely not. I find it kind of weird when men that are not inside the family babysit children. It's very red flagged activity. Next, Mario. No, not to a baby boy and not to a baby girl. Absolutely not. How old is he? He's, I think, 30 something years old, and Peach is like 15. He's trying to Maybe I shouldn't say that. The point is, Mario is 30, Peach is 15. Lastly, we have James Charles. Yo, whoever made this fucking quiz needs to be put in prison. If I'm being realistic, I don't think I would let anybody babysit my kids besides family or my girlfriend's family. That's the only exception.